think you know college? Well, you may be right. But you're probably at least partly wrong.
What you'll hear is an episode produced by one of 13 seniors at Assumption College for a capstone in communication and media.
Originally, we aimed to produce 3 full episodes as a production team.
But due to the global pandemic and remote learning, we produced our own mini episodes in the comfort of our own homes.
Each episode takes on some aspect of the college experience,
like party culture, academics, dating, sports, and more.
In order to figure out what college used to be like,
why it is the way it is now,
what has stayed the same, and why we decide to put up with it.
Ian Sullivan, better known by his nickname Sully, has had the same routine every morning for the past few months. He wakes up around 9 a.m., checks the time, gets out of bed, makes a cup of coffee, grabs his laptop, and then he returns to his bed for the next several hours with his laptop open in front of him. But wait, he's a senior in college. Shouldn't he be in class around this time in the morning? What's he still doing in bed? Yes, he should be in class around then. And he is, actually. On his computer screen, he's not playing video games or online shopping. No, he's going to college. From his bed. In his pajamas. He's attending his 9:30 class on Zoom, a platform for online remote learning. Around this same time every morning, Sully's college roommate Luke has a very similar morning routine that involves several hours sitting in his bed looking at his computer screen. He too is attending his college classes without even removing his blankets yet. Same situation for one of their other roommates, Noe, who is in a tutoring appointment around this time, and you guessed it, without even leaving his bed yet. In fact, around this time every morning for the last few months, nearly every American college student has had a similar morning routine to Sully. Nearly 20 million college students are getting their education without even leaving their rooms by attending Zoom University, as online classes are often jokingly called now. Seems like a thing of the future, right? Well, it once was like that, but now online college is just a part of the college experience. The coronavirus pandemic forced nearly every student in America to transition to online learning, and right now, we're all getting a first-hand look at how technology can really change the college experience when classes and social scenes can now largely occur online. This is Higher Education, Higher Tech, the 4th episode in a 13-part series produced by my English senior seminar class at Assumption College. My name is David Pepin, and today, I'll be showing you how college today is nothing like it once was because of what it once was. I was in 8th grade when I got my first phone. Now, lots of people older than me are probably thinking, that is so young to get a phone. Alternatively, lots of people younger than me are probably thinking the opposite, that 8th grade is actually pretty old to get your first phone. It was an iPhone 3GS, a relatively overlooked piece of technology in today's world, but man, was that thing a game changer when I got it. Not only was it a phone, but you could also access the internet on it, play games, watch YouTube, take pictures. The list seemed endless. It was my introduction to the power at your fingertips that comes with owning a device. Today, smartphones are way more powerful than they were then, but around the time I got my first phone was when I saw a shift in technology in the classroom. Computer labs and laptops became a regular part of the learning experience. Smartphones became more popular, which helped us collaborate outside of class, and of course, we all learned how to use social media. Now I'm a senior in college, so that was like 8 or 9 years ago. But just in that time, technology has changed so much. Think of your life in 2011 compared to now. If you're like the rest of us, chances are you use a lot more technology in your everyday life now than you did then. And that was only 9 years ago, less than a decade. Life has changed because of new technological innovations, and college is one area where these innovations have made the most impact, not just in the last 10 years, but ever since it was established. In many ways, the purpose of this episode is to analyze the numerous ways that college has changed because of technological innovations. Social norms to classrooms. Everything has changed significantly from 100, 50, and even 10 years ago. And to tell the complete story of the evolution of technology and its impact on the college experience, maybe it's best to start at the end. Or, not really the end, more of where we are now. Today, 99% of college-age students own a cell phone. 96% own a smartphone, and up to 85% own a laptop. And these technologies are used every day in college classrooms across the country. 5.4 million students, which is just over a quarter of the college population, have taken an online class at least once. 2.6 million, or around 12.5% of students, reported taking exclusively online classes. And that was before the coronavirus pandemic forced nearly every student in America to take online classes. Terms like Zoom classes and remote learning that are so popular right now because of the pandemic are dominating a portion of the college experience. With powerful technology so available to today's college students, it's impossible to not incorporate something so widespread into the learning experience.
I use technology every single day while doing my schoolwork. I can't imagine not using technology to help with schoolwork, be it checking emails, typing up papers on my computer, research.
I use my laptop a lot for typing papers and researching, and I've also used my phone recently to do FaceTime tutoring appointments.
These are the norms of today for sure, but as many know, college didn't always look like this. In fact, it used to look very, very different. Higher education began in the United States in 1636 in Cambridge, Massachusetts, at now known as Harvard University, but back then it was called Harvard College, where it was originally designed to provide education to those going into the ministry. However, it expanded to include a wide range of applied skills like engineering and agriculture after the Revolutionary War. The first major innovation that changed the college classroom came in the 1800s when the chalkboard was popularized. As modern college students, we often think of blackboards as old and outdated, a symbol of the past. But the reality is that they were once the most important innovation in higher education until the computer. Well, wait, why were they so important? Well, because blackboards allowed professors to write lessons in front of the entire class. That was huge at the time. So huge, in fact, that one unknown educator from the time declared that the blackboard's inventor deserves to be ranked among the best contributors to learning and science, if not among the greatest benefactors of mankind. Before, students just worked on their own, writing and reading and listening. But now all of a sudden, professors could show what they were talking about. All of a sudden, collaboration was more accessible and effective. All of a sudden, the modern classroom was born. In the 1920s, radio was used to broadcast on-air classes, which was actually the first instance of remote learning, which obviously is a very relevant topic today, but more on that later. In the 1930s, it was the overhead projector. This classic piece of technology made classrooms more efficient, as professors could prepare and write lessons before the class and just focus on questions and comments during the lessons. In the 1950s, videotapes started being used, and again, the classroom became more efficient and giving the professors more options. Evolution, by its very definition, is the process of growth over time, where something simple often becomes something much more complex. The college classroom had started off something so simple, but by the 1960s, technology was about to become much more complex, especially when computers were invented and computer-based education systems like Plato, which stood for the programmed logic for automatic teaching operations, began to lay the foundation for technology learning in the college classroom. A few years later, in the 1970s, the personal computer was invented, and by the late 70s, computer science became an important major for college students. Through the 1980s, computers developed even more, and by the mid-80s, nearly 10% of college students were majoring in computer sciences.
When I was in college, in the late 80s and early 90s, no one carried around a laptop computer. You had to go to a computer lab where you had to get in line, or if you were fortunate to get a machine right away, you'd sit down and you'd log in, and you'd carry disks around with you to store all your work.
That was my dad, who went to college in the 1990s, where computers and the internet changed the entire meaning of college.
The advantage was it was still better than typewriters or word processing machines, but it was nowhere near the computer systems of modern times. Throughout that time, the rise of the Apple all-in-one box type computer, the earliest Macintoshes, became more and more prominent, so that by the time I left college, that was more along the lines of what people were using. But the earliest days started out as labs filled with row after row of big, clunky machines that had very basic prompts, and you needed to know a certain amount of computer language to actually make them do something for you.
Finally, the modern college classroom was beginning to take shape. Enter the creation of social media in the 2000s, and all the pieces that make up today's college experience were now in play. Granted, they don't look like they do now, but they were there, in their infancy. Social media was important because it connected the world in a way that had never been seen before. Sites like Facebook and Twitter, which were launched in 2004 and 2006 respectively, made it easier for college students to socially interact with each other online, sometimes without even ever meeting the person they were interacting with. Social media worked its way into everyday life on college campuses in the 2000s. In 2008, for example, 63% of college-aged Americans reported using social media. The majority, yes, but it was still relatively early in the game compared to now. Nowhere close to the dominant hold that social media has on today's college social life. In the late 2000s, it had reached its adolescence, but it took the 2010s to mature it. As we get closer and closer to modern college on this timeline, I want to take a very close look at some of the elements of the last 10 years specifically, because they might be the most important in shaping what college is today. Smartphones in particular. According to the Pew Research Center, in 2019, 81% of Americans now own a smartphone of some sort. When they first started tracking this number in 2011, only 35% of the country owned a smartphone of some kind. Think about that. From the time that I got my first phone in 8th grade to now is when most of the country also got their smartphones. If you look closer at the age range where you'll find most American college students, 96% of this age range now owns a smartphone of some sort.
Right, SpongeBob! We're not cavemen! We have technology!
Obviously, I've got my laptop, I've got my AirPods, iPad, phone, PlayStation, TV, obviously.
I own a laptop, an Amazon Fire tablet, an iPhone.
Every single day, I use my Samsung Galaxy smartphone, my PlayStation 4, and my laptop.
My laptop, my phone, my AirPods, and I have a Nintendo Switch. Especially during quarantine, I've been spending pretty countless hours collectively on those devices combined. Most of my waking moments are dedicated to either being on my laptop or phone or watching TV.
This 10-year difference between 2010 and now deserves a deep dive. So many important technological innovations changed the college experience during this time, but definitely none more important than the maturation of social media's role in society and everyday life. Earlier we talked about it coming into the college atmosphere, but this was the span where social media really developed into what it is now, where it monopolized a piece of college culture in both classrooms and in social settings. Instagram and Snapchat are two platforms in particular that are very popular with the college age range, with 67% on Instagram and 62% on Snapchat. However, just 10 years ago, if you asked a college student about either of them, you'd get some pretty confused looks from them. That's because, believe it or not, 10 years ago, neither existed. Yep. 10 years ago, the two-headed monster that dominates college social life was just an idea getting ready for launch. Instagram was launched on October 6, 2010, and Snapchat on July 8, 2011. In less than 10 years, both went from unknown startups to dominating a large part of college social life. I asked a few of my classmates which social media they use the most in their everyday lives.
The best social media platform that I love personally is Instagram. I think it's just a great way for people to show what they're up to, different places they've been. For example, when my friends went to Rome, it was really cool to see all of the different places that they went over the weekend and just how much people really do outside of school.
My favorite social media is Twitter, no competition. It does a good job in fostering a community.
My favorite social media is Instagram because I think it's the most fun, being such a creative and open platform for all users.
Social media is actually so important now that there are college classes that are entirely dedicated to how to use it effectively. I've personally taken 2, social media journalism and social media marketing, and both of them I found that they allowed me to learn very practical skills, and those concepts I used in internships and other sorts of personal social media use.
I took a social media journalism course last semester, and I learned the importance of fact-checking your online sources before going live with a story. There are a lot of false narratives online, and it is important in all aspects of life to make sure the information you have is correct.
With more than 98% of college students on some form of social media, it's just another medium that students bond over and use in their social lives every day.
I use Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat because they're easy ways to keep up with family and friends. All of my family uses Facebook, so it's easy to keep up with them, and all my friends use Snapchat, so that's a way to keep in touch.
In the classroom now, modern technology has led to opportunities that really would not have even been possible a few years ago. Today, the college classroom has been forced into a monumental change thanks to the COVID-19 virus. The transition to online learning came quick and unexpected, but it wouldn't have even been possible to continue college learning right now if it weren't for modern technologies. If this had happened before computers, college would have come to a screeching halt. Who knows how college would have looked if we didn't have this opportunity to learn remotely? As college students, even just 2 months ago, our perceptions of college were drastically different from what they are right now.
The biggest difference I've noticed between online classes and in-person classes is the college course atmosphere. I miss being in a classroom and having in-person interactions with students and teachers. Of course, you could have these things online, but it feels very different.
For me, the biggest change when it comes to going from in-person classes to online classes is honestly the social interaction that you get from your classmates every day. I found that it's been kind of lonely being at home, and just kind of not having to see your friends has been kind of a real shock to me how much I really miss the social interaction that I get at school.
It's important to listen to some of the voices of college students right now who are going through this. This sort of mass remote learning has never been seen before.
Transition to online learning wasn't ideal. Obviously, for many seniors, it wasn't ideal. And I honestly thought it was going to be a lot easier. It was a lot difficult in my mind, I think. Adapting was tough, and it was a really hard semester, but the experience and what you learn from this is unique. I've gained a lot of experience, improved my content creating skills. I picked up stuff in Adobe. It's nothing you want to happen, but it's something that happens for a reason. As they tell you, everything happens for a reason.
College has always been heavily influenced by the technology of each era, and today we have an opportunity to see just how far we've come, where we don't even have to leave our bedrooms to get a college education. In another 10 years, college will likely be totally different because of this. Who knows if this will influence more students to opt for online learning? Who knows what kinds of technological innovations the world will have in that time that will change college experiences? Who knows what kind of new social media will take over social life and connect us all? We're changing the world with technology. Bill Gates said that, and he's right. The world as a whole and all its little micro-worlds like college campuses are always being changed. It's inevitable. Bill Gates also once said, "Every new change forces all the companies in an industry to adapt their strategies to that change." College is no different. It has always adapted to the changing technology of each era, and thus, no two eras of college are the same. Now I'm preparing to graduate college just as my dad and my grandfather once did, but our experiences with the same thing could not be more different. This time of year would have been graduation festivities and such associated with the college experience, but instead the pandemic is forcing many end-of-the-year moments to be done online, something past graduating classes didn't have available. Anyone who ever went to college had our experiences changed by the technology of our time, a process that will continue as long as college goes on. All we have to do is adapt.